Hello, hello, hello. This is attorney Mike Gravelin coming to you from Chicago as usual. And as you can see, I got a fresh new do. I have to give a shout out to Nora. I don't know how to do a poll. I would do a poll and say, did she do a nice job or did she hack me? But I don't know how to do a poll. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this. One job if you think Nora did, one for if you think Nora did a nice job. Two, if you think she hacked me. Let's give her some feedback. All right, I got a couple fun clips. One was sent to me by Lady Lou Bracant. Thank you very much. It's a new judge. He was on my radar, but he's how do I put it? He's a good judge. He's a good, straightforward judge, but usually there's not much. Oh, you guys are sweet. You're sweet in the chat. Okay. He's a good judge. But he gets boring stuff and he disposes of it in a reasonable way. So it sort of puts me in mind, different, but it sort of puts me in mind of Gothier. But he gets a wild one today. You know, eventually it's going to happen. And somebody sent it to me, which namely is Lady Lubricant. Thank you very much. That's awesome. And then, of course, we've got Ms. Deborah Davis. I was just over on her stream, and that was truly an S show. And it was a lot of fun with Rob from Lawn Lumber. We had a good time over there. So look at this. You guys are showing the love to Nora, which is good. She's a sweetheart. She might be a cutie. I'm not going to confirm that because people get all upset if I say such a thing. And it doesn't even sound like me. I probably wouldn't do business with somebody who's attractive because that's not how I roll, right? But I'll say that the possibility exists. How's that?
And now before the court is Daniel Scott of cases 143401DP, case 123961DS, case 071486DS, and case 021061DP. In each of these matters, Mr. Scott is here today after failing to appear before the domestic relations referee on November 18th, 2021. In the first case, bond is currently set at $2,054. This is the third bench warrant. In the second case, bond is currently $1,031. This is the third bench warrant. In the third case, bond is currently $1,271. This is the fourth bench warrant. And in the final case, bond is currently $5,379, and this is the fourth bench warrant. He reports that he is employed at Huffman Tire. Last payment made on these accounts was in April of 2021. Front of the court recommends that reasonable bonds be set in each of these matters, and they be scheduled for hearing on August 3rd, 2022 at 8 o'clock a.m. before this court.
Mr. Scott, you're before the court with a charge of civil contempt of court due to your failure to appear at a prior hearing as a result of your failure to pay child support. Purpose of this hearing is to set a bond that would assure your attendance at the next hearing on August 3rd, 2022 at 8 o'clock a.m. Are you able to post bonds in this matter, and if so, how much?
No, I'm not. And the only reason I did not attend the last court meeting, I was hospitalized with COVID.
Okay, so this hearing starts very reasonable. Don't worry. It goes sideways. It really does. And hi, Legal Vices. By the way, if any of you are not subscribed to Legal Vices, just get over there and do it because it's good stuff.
I had it really bad. I had viral pneumonia in both lungs. I was hospitalized from October all the way up until December. So it wasn't like an intentional miss. I was on my deathbed, honestly.
Okay. Well, after you got out, did you contact the front of the court and provide them with proof that you were in the hospital?
They said that.
I like this Judge Kirkham. Like I said, I've seen him before. He's on my radar, but this is the first time I've had him on the channel. He's just a good, straightforward judge, and he just nudges him left and right, but very, very subtly. It's fun to watch.
I had to come up with some money. That's what they said. I have the proof. I have all the hospital papers, but they said that
Yes.
they wanted me to come in with like $400 on each case. I didn't have that kind of money. I mean, my house was condemned while I was hospitalized. It was broken into.
Love it.
It's been really hard for me to recover from that. Honestly, my ID's been stolen. Like, you know what I mean? I just bumped into somebody I knew from Huffman's when I worked there, and they said they still had my documents on file and they needed somebody to work, and they'd let me come back to work. I was supposed to go meet with them today.
Okay.
And that's the first kind of good news I've had in a minute, sir, honestly.
Yeah. Okay. Well, court will, I am going to reduce your bond substantially, but again, you've got obviously 4 prior bench warrants, in some cases 3 in others, and you haven't paid since 2021.
And I also want to know about the forgiveness program, because this is like way too big for me. This is too much. This is 4 cases. You know what I mean? It's just going to keep being a continuing problem.
Right.
I'm one person, you know, I'm not married. I don't have any family help. I got to take everything on myself. It's too much for me. You know, one of the cases is $500 a month. I don't have $500 a month. I'm never going to.
Well,
He's a lumberjack and he's okay. He sleeps all night and he works all day.
need to, when you get out,
Okay,
you're
I
going to
had
need
to
to
do it.
file to have a support review done so you can get those modified.
Okay.
What I'm going to do at this point, I'm going to reduce your bond, but I'm going to set your bond in each case in the amount of $200. If you're able to post that, you'd be able to be released. Do you have any questions?
You can't do a PR on me because of the COVID?
Nope.
So,
No, not with the fact that you haven't paid in about 1.5 years. So the court doesn't feel comfortable with that. You have obviously prior bench warrants as well. So
all right.
that will be the order of the court.
So I just lost the job that I was going to have for today.
Schomburg in the house.
It don't make no sense, man.
Well, it doesn't make any sense. You haven't paid in 1.5 years, sir. So that's what
I'm
we're
a
faced
natural.
with.
I've got
I'm a
beets in
biological
Schaumburg.
being. I can't produce money. It's not natural to my anatomy. It's illegal for me to manufacture. So I have to try to produce something that I have to expect other people to give me. I want to be recognized as a natural person, not an artificial person. I can't produce an artificial substance to satisfy a court. I'm a biological being. My creator did not create me with the ability to produce money. I have to expect other people to do that.
Well, sir, our hearing's done. If you want to go into a diatribe, you can do it with someone else. Thank you.
And don't forget to hit like and subscribe.
Oh, see, that's what I'm talking about. The judge seems very, very calm, and he is, and even to the end. But at the end, he's like, I'm not doing this. Go sell crazy someplace else. We're not doing it here.
Or the dogs get it.
All right.
Thank you. Have a seat. I also wanted to check on this file. It didn't have a driving record or a criminal history in it. And I'd asked the clerks earlier this morning to get that for me.
Okay, so this is interesting. It's a DUI sentencing. It's not. It's frankly, it's kind of somber, but it's really interesting. You do get to see Deborah in here doing her thing as we go, and you see a lot of pictures, and you see all the stuff that goes into his decision making. It's kind of fascinating.
And I still didn't have it, so she's working on it. Autumn, there's a drunk driving conviction out of Indiana in 2015 that doesn't show up on his summary here.
Your Honor, that did not result in a conviction, to my knowledge.
Default judgment, operating while intoxicated. Looks like a conviction. Can't tell. As I said, I didn't see it till 1 second ago, but I thought there was something else. All right. Let's call the case. This is file 22363ST, People versus Samuel Joseph Thomas. I'm still waiting for his criminal history and see what that shows us. Mr. Thomas is charged here with operating with a high blood alcohol level.
was originally charged with operating while intoxicated, second offense. And pled to operating with a high blood alcohol level. The plea was no contest.
Stop it,
Due to
David.
memory issues and civil liability issues. In looking at the report more carefully, and I'll say this report was poor. I had a better report on the crash in Centerville. There wasn't any information in it, hardly. And trying to discern what happened, it appears someone was hit head on and had some very serious injuries, but you sure couldn't tell from the report. Ms. Davis also shared the pictures with me. So Mr. Thomas is here with his lawyer, Trevor Naval from the Hills Law Firm, and Deborah Davis is here with Autumn Kiefer from our probation department. I also understand, and I'm pleased to hear it, that the complaining witness who was hit is also present. So we'll hear from him. Mr. Naval, let's start with you first. What would you like me to know?
Did you ask me, Judge?
Yes.
Your Honor, I know that when I first met with my client, we went over the police report, and his recollection of the evening was extremely vague. He was largely going off of what I was telling him about what was alleged, a combination of the high alcohol content with the trauma of the crash prevented him from having much of a recollection here. With that said, I was...
Oh, that's a rough argument, but I think it's the best one he's got. I mean, we're now at sentencing. He's convicted of it. All right. My client was so wasted, he doesn't know what's going on.
Confident in my ability of guiding him through this process. We were aware from the start that the prior that was being alleged to make this a second offense fell outside of the 7-year window. And I talked to him about our possible defenses and what our game plan was for strategy. And it wasn't until I came in here and met with Miss Davis that we all became aware of the severity of this offense and the real danger that the defendant posed on the roadway that night. Since that time, I've been impressed with both his remorse level, his commitment to sobriety since the offense date, Judge, along with him working hard to explore what his options were to get back on the right track with his life. He's currently engaged to be married. His fiance is here in the courtroom. We talked once on the record before, Judge, about the requirement that he would need to be a Michigan resident to participate in the sobriety court program. Despite the fact that I told him that that probation could be an option for him, even if he didn't live in the state. He drove an hour to be here from his residence in Indiana, and I think that he'd be more than willing to make it work in whatever capacity he had to. But he took your sentiments to heart, Judge, when he's brought it up to me twice. The court made a comment about how the online AA that he'd been doing was not sufficient for him. He knows that
online AA does sound kind of weak. Just the phrase.
Doing the online classes, that he doesn't have a sponsor, that he's not fully engaged in the group therapy that he could potentially benefit from, and he's actually entered into a purchase agreement to buy property here in Michigan. They're scheduled to close next month. Due to zoning ordinances and code regulations relating to the well water, he's not expected to be able to move into that home for something closer to 6 months, Judge. I know that Locally, we have the requirement that you be both a Michigan resident and a licensed Michigan driver. As far as the Secretary of State's concerned, this is a true first offense. When 45 days goes by from the date of his plea, he'll be eligible to get an interlock device installed in his car, get a restricted Michigan driver's license. He's employed full-time and seems ready to do what the court would require, so that the court's satisfied that moving forward, he will not be a danger on the roadway. The defendant's record appears to have
Thank you, Kathy, and that's absolutely true.
a number of dismissals on it.
I can't get the darn thing. I asked to have it and I didn't get it, and they're working on it, and now it shows as blank. So this whole file has nothing in it. I was interested in looking A, at his driving record, and B, his criminal history.
And even a substance abuse assessment, Your Honor, that was prepared for the court's consideration lists a couple of different offense dates that appear to have resulted in dismissals, but just looking at the nature of the charges, disorderly person, MIP, public intoxication, even if these charges turned out to be dismissed in the interest of justice, it would appear as though Mr. Thomas, due to the consumption of alcohol, had run afoul with law enforcement on prior occasions up until this. And he's not as young as he used to be, and was starting a family and being employed. He understands that he's no use if he's in jail. He's no use if he doesn't have a driver's license, and he's certainly no use if he's drunk, Judge. And I think that his pattern of behavior has one that's led himself to, I mean, the court's just as able as I am to inquire as to whether or not somebody's being truthful about their sobriety date or truthful about their intentions moving forward. But Mr. Thomas, better than most, seems to realize that first offense, alcohol-related driving offense, or a local jail sentence, or 24 months of probation, it's nothing compared to what my client's feeling being in the same room as the man whose life he could have potentially ended if things would have only been just a touch different. His place right now is one of acknowledging that he's lucky, and that in order to establish a mindset of change and sobriety for the court, I think he's prepared to accept the consequences today. When he didn't have, and I apologize for taking so long, Judge, this is the end.
Take as much time.
Thank you. When the prospect of being a Michigan resident was more of a long shot months ago, even at the time of the plea, when he didn't know if he was going to be able to swing the house or the purchase or the money or the rest of it, like we had talked about, like what type of local jail sentence would he be looking at if he just wanted to do that in the interest of getting an approved leave of absence from work,
Colleen,
instead of the time and the money and travel constraints that would come with 2 years of supervision. However, in the time that's passed, he's really seemed to change his tone about that. I think that between the purchase agreement and his sentiments here today and his communications with the person who prepared the evaluation, he seems to be realizing that maybe a little bit of court-ordered compliance to oversee his sobriety. I mean, having 7 months under his belt of no drinking is an accomplishment, but he's done that while out on bond with the threat of jail hanging over his head, with the uncertainty of what was going to happen with a victim impact statement. Like, I think that in large part, his sobriety may be dependent on the fact that he's under the court's thumb right now. And from what I know about him, I'd be supportive of the court ordering something that it saw fit to ensure the fact that this.
Wow, that's a delicate line. He's saying, you know, my client's only behaving because he's got all this consequence hanging over his head, which is absolutely true. but that's and I guess he's suggesting to the judge to do lots of other stuff. I guess that's an idea. The idea is let's get him into drug court or something like that as opposed to jail, and you'll see how that turns out.
This won't happen again, sir. Thank you. We have some paperwork that we brought related to the purchase. He doesn't have the purchase agreement, but he knows his closing date. He has I almost don't even want to tell you, Judge, but he has an oral surgery planned for Wednesday the 27th. He says that he worked hard to try to get that moved up. He didn't want to come in here and have that be part of his plea to the court regarding sentencing considerations. I just know that the oral surgery is a serious one that the oral surgeon was not available to do this up until this week.
As opposed to the oral surgeries that are just for fun.
He's having half of his mouth removed, Judge, and I know that, and he was the one that had suggested to me, that if 14 to 30 days in jail was the kind of thing that he could pay his debts to society through restitution and a little jail time, that maybe it's in his best interest to do it that way. Since entering into the purchase agreement and meeting with the probation department, like he's really hoping that he can, if ordered to a jail term, that he could go to this. He's provided proof of his appointment date and the follow-up care 4 days later or so. But then I think that it would be nothing more than that, Judge. Potentially this time next week he could report if the court saw it fit. But that's all, sir. Thank you.
All right, thank you. You don't have to feel bad. You take as much time as you want. Tell me what you want me to know. I'm trying to figure out what the status of that 2015 drunk driving charge was. It shows up on his driving record, which I didn't get till this morning. It doesn't show up on his criminal history. Is there a drunk driving conviction from the state of Indiana in 2015?
Yes or no?
I was aware that was the one that had prolapsed 7 years, and that's why it was off the record. That's the only.
All right, but it was back 7 or 8 years ago.
Yes.
All right. It doesn't show up in the pre-sentence report, but there's a previous conviction. You spent a lot of time on this, Mr. Marable. You worked very hard on this case, maybe trying to pound a square peg into a round hole. The other thing I can't figure out is, do you have a valid Michigan driver's license?
No. Well, no, I have the temporary ID, the piece of paper.
Do you have an Indiana license?
No.
All right, so you have no license in Indiana. Correct. Or Michigan.
Correct.
Okay. All right. So you're not eligible for an interlock after 45 days. You have to have a license, and you live in Napanee, so you can't get a Michigan license.
With this new residence that he's moving into, Judge, I'm not aware of anything on his driving record that would prevent him from being eligible to getting a restricted Michigan driver's license after the 45 days from the date of his plea.
Well, that's a sham, because he isn't living on an empty lot with no well on it.
Well, sir, there is a hunting cabin on there. There's just no well or septic, but there is power, and it's just a small little hunting shack.
Well, you won't be living in it. So I don't know. Well, that may be correct. Maybe you're eligible to do that. I don't know. But again, we're talking about pounding a square peg into a round hole. But this is a recurring issue which raises my ire. I've had 10 of these in the last 2 years.
This is a recurring issue that raises my ire. Okay, dude. I'm not buying it. How's that?
3 years, where there's an accident where someone is seriously injured and nobody notices. And it's like an afterthought. We'll hear more about that. Ms. Davis, what do you want me to know?
Your Honor, would it be okay to have Mr. Hiller speak first if he chooses?
In reviewing the police report carefully, this defendant was going the wrong way, northbound in the southbound lanes of 131 outside of Three Rivers, and had a head-on collision with this gentleman. Would you state your name for the record, please?
It's George Hiller.
Mr. Hiller, thank you for being here. I was reading the report, which
Wait for these pictures. It's pretty impressive.
is quite brief.
Yeah,
And
there's not a whole lot to it.
there's not a lot to it. I was disappointed. And there's a little reference to you that you were hit and then you don't remember anything after that. And then there's a reference that you missed 9 or 10 days of work.
10 days total. Yes.
10 days. And I didn't know anything about anything. It's like, then I looked at the pictures.
Which I do have those pulled up, Your Honor.
All right, let's take a look at those.
I think you have to let me in from the waiting room.
What?
If you would put me in from the waiting room and Zoom, then I can screen share.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I had that screen closed.
There she is. Our hero.
So this is the defendant's vehicle.
And that is the little place that sells storage buildings on 131 between Millard and Broadway?
Correct.
Okay.
And then stop sharing share. And that's the front view, and you can see the victim's car is the white car that's on the left-hand side in the back. And then this is Mr. Hiller's car.
That was the
Oh, there you
telling
have it.
picture when I looked at it. So Mr. Hiller, that's the car you were in the night this happened, January 25th. What kind of car is that?
That was a 2010 Ford Fusion.
All right. What would you like me to know?
I really like the use of the past tense there. I think it was appropriate, and it actually makes me like the defendant slightly more.
Well, I'm very happy that night I didn't have my service dog with me, because he'd have been in the back seat of that vehicle. Probably wouldn't be here today. I didn't go to the hospital that night because he was at home, and I figured I was good enough. I've been through a lot of injuries in my life, and my pain tolerance is pretty high, so I didn't think there was anything wrong until the
You're a
next day.
military veteran, that's correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
And as a result of some of the service, you have some ongoing medical issues and you have a service dog.
Yes, and I've had a fractured C-spine before, so I mean a fractured sternum is severe, but fractured C-spine kind of puts it into perspective.
This is interesting, and I have the same problem, and Judge Middleton handles it just the way I think it should be handled, which is I have great respect for your service to the country. However, it doesn't get you out of this.
All right, so instead of going to the hospital that night, you went home.
Yeah, I figured I'd just sleep it off. I didn't know it was anything super severe.
Then what happened?
The next day when I tried to go to work, I made it through about 2 hours. I think I picked up one window and got a searing pain across my chest, and told my boss, hey, I probably got to go to the doctor. And the Three Rivers emergency room is where I originally went. They saw me and told me that I had fractured my sternum, and that he wasn't going to allow me to go back to work until I went and saw my doctor at the VA, which happened a couple days later.
Thank you, Gregsy.
What did they do?
Oops, Griggsy just corrected me, and he's right. Okay, so he's got respect for the service of the victim, not the defendant. I just messed that up. However, it's the same concept still exists.
Honestly, they aren't able to do much unless it's a severe fracture, in which they'd have to open me up and staple it back together. But it's just still displaced right about here. You can feel it. But there's nothing they can do except let it heal over time.
How much work did you miss?
2 weeks total. 1 day, 1 full week that the doctor mandated that I be off, and then the second week was FMLA.
And you put a request in there for the wages you make and the work that you missed?
With Debbie, yeah.
Yes, thank you. Marissa gave us that. That's when I learned that you had missed 2 weeks of work, and I don't really know. It's an institutional problem. The police report comes and there's nothing, there's no there, and you have to look deeper to figure out that there's a person here who suffered a consequence. Where were you headed?
I was on my way back home.
Somewhere.
I was at the car wash, the new one on 131, trying to knock off the salt and crap from my car.
What time of day was this?
Right about 9 o'clock.
You sure did, Christy.
What else would you like me to know?
From what I remember that evening, when I got out of the vehicle, my first thought was, I'm alive, so I went to check on the occupant of the other vehicle, and he was coming out of his SUV, and I was just trying to make sure he was okay. Obviously, I couldn't understand much that was going on due to whatever was going on in his situation. But
you couldn't understand him because he was impaired or because of your own accident you just been in?
Because he just fractured his sternum, Judge.
I think it was probably a little bit of both of us at that point, because my bell was definitely rung from the multiple airbags that were in my vehicle all hitting me at once. And, it was freezing cold that evening. But I made sure that, the first responders that came from Three Rivers went and grabbed him to make sure that he was okay first. And, I was up and walking, so I thought that I was fine. Later I wasn't.
We don't get those reports either. There's all kinds of valuable information in the fire department reports, and for reasons I don't understand, we don't get that. When we do get it, there's all kinds of valuable stuff in there. But what this is,
it doesn't help this guy's cause that the victim is so damn likable.
Is operating while intoxicated with a serious personal injury. It didn't get charged as that, which is a 1-year misdemeanor, 93-day misdemeanor.
Indeed.
So this actually got charged as a high blood alcohol level, which is a 180-day offense. What happened to your car?
It's gone.
And so
I had to get a new vehicle.
And
okay,
your
that's fine.
medical expenses, who covered those?
Luckily, well, for me, I'm 90% disabled through the VA, so all of my medical bills are covered through wonderful taxpayers of this country.
Well, they're paying you for a service you rendered to the country, so
yes.
You deserve every penny of it. Is there anything else you'd like me to know?
I'm just happy that I wasn't going very fast and was able to stop a far more serious accident. he were to hit somebody that was full speed.
Well, you're from around here, so you know this is one of the most dangerous pieces of public highway in the state of Michigan.
Yeah, 131.
I say this quite often. Between the Big Hill and Constantine and maybe Heimbach Road, which is maybe 10 miles, 12 miles, there have been more than 100 fatal accidents.
I won't. Thank you.
Right, Constantine.
Yes, there was a double fatal right there on 131. This particular stretch where this is even before Walmart was put in Myers, there have been a lot of fatal accidents. This defendant somehow.
I love Middleton. He's just so small town. Yeah, let's let's go through the history of 131 prior to Meyer and Walmart. Okay.
Was going northbound in the southbound lane, which I'm not sure how he did it, and he doesn't have any memory of it. There was an interchange, and you're familiar with it, south of 3 Rivers, which was confusing to people. And in the fog or in the winter, sometimes people ended up going the wrong way.
Yes.
But someone called in and said there's a guy in a big white SUV going northbound in the southbound lane.
Yeah, the police officers mentioned that when they
Well,
first showed up.
you didn't get that message. You just pulled out
Thank you,
and ready to
Felicia.
go, and some guy.
I found it.
How much time did you have before you noticed that this guy was coming straight at you?
As I was checking northbound traffic to make sure, I was going from northbound to southbound. I checked north to see if there was southbound traffic. As soon as I pulled out of that J turn right there were headlights. I had no chance.
Well, he was bound to hit somebody else.
That could have been going a lot faster.
You were just pulling out.
Oh, this guy is devastating. He is so freaking likable and calm and articulate. It's just everything you don't want as the defense attorney.
As you know, they've put Michigan turns on there to try to make it more safe. All right. Well, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad to hear you, see you. You don't sound vindictive or angry. You seem like you wish it hadn't happened. But as I said, there's a real person in that car, and that's you. You need to see him too.
Sir.
All right. Anything else you want me to know?
No, the day after the accident, when I went to go clean out my valuables from the car, his fiance was actually at Brokers at the same time. I had no ill will towards her or him. I actually, last night I was rebaptized. And as far as all that goes, it's forgiven in my book, but there's still the matter of the state that has to be taken care of.
All right. Thanks. All right. Deborah, having heard that, what else would you like me to know?
I did have one more that I wanted to share. After he said that he was more worried about the other individual, I mean, obviously the defendant had a laceration by his face, but the fact that this gentleman, he didn't cause the accident. He was seriously injured, but didn't realize how seriously injured he was. And it just says a lot about his character. The fact that this individual sitting here in front of you has had more than one DUI, even if it was just outside of the 7 years, great, okay, for you, sentencing wise, but that's not a good excuse, I guess. When you look at where he was coming from and going to, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think he said he was in the Lawton area, and he lives in Napa.
Ooh, this sounds mellow, but don't be fooled by this. She is twisting and should be. She is twisting, and she knows what buttons to press. She knows Judge Middleton.
me, that's a significant stretch. And if he thought that he was okay to drive that stretch, I just can't comprehend why someone who has a prior DUI, who has had a resisting law enforcement and public intoxication that was charged with, was dismissed, who's had an MIP, would make that choice to get behind the wheel and drive on a highway such as that, or anywhere for that matter. I mean, thank God Mr. Hiller was only going about 5 miles an hour and took the brunt of it and deflected before he did hit somebody at 55 or 60 or 65 on that stretch. We know people tend to drive a little fast there. It just, I don't think he understands how serious this could have been, and he clearly has an issue with alcohol, and it may be that he's can't drink anymore. Like there's people that just cannot have a drink or two, and he appears to be one of those. And I know Your Honor was confused about the BAC and how that all went, because his initial PBT on the roadside by the state trooper was, I believe, a .126 or thereabout. And he consented to a blood draw. And so obviously that takes a little bit of time to get over there and get the blood draw, but it was obviously much higher, the point, I think it's .226. So I looked at his booking to see what his PBT at booking was, just to make sure that we're not totally off. And it was a .19, I believe it was. Let me double check so I'm not wrong on that. There we go. .198 was his PBT at booking, and he was booked in at 22:57. So I don't know what he was doing, honestly, like how his blood alcohol got so high so quick.
I try to reconcile that. This accident happened within 100 yards of the hospital as the crow flies. So they got the blood draw fairly quickly.
Well, listen to this. It's right where you think it would be, but it's not good.
It was very cold. I just don't think there was an adequate blow on the PBT, but the PBT isn't admissible as evidence anyway. So the evidence is his blood alcohol was 266 shortly after the accident. He didn't go from a 125 to a 266 in an hour. I think his blood alcohol was very high. He had driven from Lawton. And I'm trying to reconcile that. The way to get from Lawton to Napanee is not down 131 in Three Rivers.
Your Honor, I never said I was going to Napanee. I don't know where I was going.
I can feel this one. Michigan turn is just a left-hand turn in the middle of a highway. They're all over the country, but I don't know. I guess they started it there. I don't know.
And we checked my phone, the call logs, texts. There was nothing indicating anything about me going anywhere. I have absolutely no idea how I ended up there.
All right. And I don't know how you ended up going. I don't know where you came from. I don't know if you came south down 131 and turned around, or you went down M40 and came across M60 and ended up going northbound. And I'm not being critical. You don't remember. I don't know how you got where you were going, but there you were.
And I guess maybe one last thought. This wasn't the middle of the night. This was 9 p.m. or thereabout. You have families on the road. You have wherever he was, whoever he was with. Yes, he is an adult and has his own, mind, but I would hope that they're looking at allowing him to leave wherever they were and not saying, hey man, I don't think you should drive. Ultimately, it's his fault, but he's putting himself apparently in situations where people don't help him make better choices. So he is lucky he doesn't have to live with himself killing someone else, but if he doesn't get a handle on this, he could. So thank you, Your Honor.
All right. Autumn?
That is the ultimate kicker. First of all, he's already predisposed to this, but if there's one thing a judge fears, it's a repeat DUI, killing somebody, and everyone coming to them and saying, "Why didn't you stop it?"
I'll give you the last word. What's your thought?
Well, it took me a little while to get a hold of Mr. Thomas. Apparently the court and Mr. Thomas's attorney, the number I was given was incorrect. We finally got a hold of him. We did speak over the phone. He seemed remorseful to me when I spoke to him. Court is accurate. Mr. Thomas has absolutely no idea why he was on 3 Rivers. He has no idea where he was going. Gave me a timeline of what he did that evening after he got out of work. Last thing he remembers was going to bed. And here we are where we are now. Mr. Thomas does have an alcohol problem. He admits that. He understands that. So he was a daily drinker after work, hence all of his criminal history. We discussed all sanctions. Initially, he just wanted a big chunk of jail because of the area where he lives. He's not close to here. He did express to me that he and his fiance would like to move back to Michigan. But at that time, that wasn't happening at that point. So I explained to him how probation supervision works, how contacting, reporting works. After we discussed all of that, he was willing and is positive that he can complete successfully a probation. Yes, that would include an assessment, which is what he needs. He understands that. As I stated again, he was extremely remorseful during our interview. He knows that he's going to be sanctioned for this. He knows he was in the wrong. He is grateful that he didn't kill the victim in the case or himself or someone else.
We haven't gotten to the point where you can drive with a 266 with a prior alcohol conviction, no valid license, nearly kill someone, and get a 1-day jail sentence. When that happens, it's time for me to retire. I don't know what your current drinking status is. You were doing some online AA meetings per you. I don't know anything about whether you actually went to AA. You said you brought some documents?
Not for AA, Your Honor, no.
I don't know whether you got drunk yesterday or had a drink on Wednesday or you've been sober for X number of weeks. You haven't done any treatment like one of my earlier ladies did. All I know is what you tell me. You don't live in Michigan. You plan to buy a lot in Michigan, not in St. Joe County, in Van Buren County. And I'm not going to pound that square peg into that round hole. I'm not going to put you in my sobriety court because you bought a piece of property in Michigan. Your summary doesn't include the prior offense, and the recommendation is not consistent with my thought. This is a punishment case as much as a treatment case. You're going to live in Napanee for a while, and even then you'll live somewhere else other than here. The gravity of this still shakes me. 266 northbound in the southbound lane of 131 at 9 o'clock at night when people are pulling out of Myers and Walmart and Walgreens. You hit this poor guy who was washing his car. On order of 31 days in jail. Credit 1. leaving 30 to do. We're going to schedule it because you got to get through your medical appointments. There's a $300 fine, a $75 crime victims' rights fee, a $50 state minimum fee, a $100 screening fee. There is no attorney fee. There's no probation oversight fee. There's a $200 police reimbursement. You wanted to say something else?
Your Honor, I told my client that around the time that the court was to levy his sentence, that he'd be given the opportunity to say he was sorry or express his remorse to the court.
I haven't heard it yet, but I guess I didn't give him a chance to say anything. So yeah, fair enough. I asked him a couple of questions, but that wasn't the same as him being given an elocution. So thank you for reminding me. So what do you want to tell me, Mr. Thomas?
I've already sentenced you, but let's have some elocution. Okay.
First off, I would like to apologize to the victim. There's a lot of things on my mind, and it's hard to sum it all up in the heat of the moment. Your ability to forgive me, that speaks a lot, man, and I don't know how to express myself to let you know the direty to the situation and how bad it could have been, and I do know that, and I'm so sorry. I don't know if you have kids or family or wife. I do. I could have just lost all of that. So I'm so sorry for doing that to you, because it could have done the same thing for you. Your Honor, I'd like to apologize for the last hearing or arraignment for a phone call. I apologize I didn't have my video working.
Well, you're here today.
And I have been serious
Apologize to the victim, would you?
about my sobriety. Yes, I've had a problem my entire life for multiple different reasons, mostly just taking responsibility for it. I think I've just been selfish. I haven't really thought about how even my own actions of just how I act on a day-to-day basis affects the people around me as well as myself. It is time, and this was a huge wake-up call for me to put it in the past, and the prosecutor's right. I'm not a one or two person. I have to completely let this go and call it quits and keep it in the past. Thank you.
Thank you. You seem like an intelligent, thoughtful guy. You were about this far from being charged with vehicular manslaughter, which would be a 15-year felony. If someone had died, maybe the troopers had put more effort into this, but since Mr. Hiller seemed okay and went home, that was the end of it. But literally, if you didn't hit him, you were about to hit somebody else. Who knows? So 30 days is a gift. And I admire Mr. Hiller's attitude. We don't always see that. And, you know, this is life-changing for him. And I see it a lot. I had a vehicular accident this year where the man was totally debilitated, unable to work, totally changed his life for the worse. And somehow that was under the radar. And I revoked them. It wasn't a drinking accident, but it was a bad accident. I took the guy's driver's license away, and he was like indignant. It's like, you nearly killed somebody. All right, 30 days jail, 31 credit 1. And you've got this oral surgery, which is important. I'm going to allow you to do that. So the probation department's going to schedule this. I'm not going to put you on probation. You're going to pay $300 fine, a $75 crime victims' rights fee, a $50 state minimum fee, $100 screening fee, $200 police reimbursement, and $1,600 restitution to George Hiller. I don't believe I have any bond here. You got released because the prosecutor didn't charge it pending the lab reports. So I don't think I have any bond money to apply. 300 plus 75 plus 50 plus 100 plus 200 plus 1,600 is 2,325. You're going to do a payment plan of $200 per month. That'll take about a year to pay this off. Mr. Hiller, thank you for being here and thank you for your service. Has rocked his world. I want you to go downstairs with Autumn. We may not even establish the day today. You don't know how long your recovery is going to be from your surgery, but I want you to be able to have it. And you're going to have to make arrangements with your boss or lose your job. 30 days has good time calculated into it. You can discuss that, but we're not doing sobriety court. I'm not doing a probation. I'm doing a jail sentence and a fine. You're good to go, sir.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, Your
Go
Honor.
downstairs with all of them. We'll work on that.
Thank you, Judge. Thank you, Judge.
Here.
Well, there you have it. There you have it. It was a long one, but I thought it was interesting. You could see it all play out. I would have given him more than the judge did, but he did stick to a jail sentence. 30 days is significant. I don't think it's significant enough here, but I also don't think that he blew it off. You know, that's where we are. It was an interesting one. We've already forgotten about the guy who's a natural man. I had to throw that in there because I need some levity in this deal. I did. That one I thought was absolutely fascinating, but it's not funny. It's not funny. I think Deborah did a good job. I think she was hoping for a little bit more than that. But who knows? Who knows? Maybe 30 days gets the message across to him. Maybe it doesn't. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more, but it's certainly well within the judge's discretion. Of course, the defense attorney was asking for all sorts of nonsense, like 1 day and that kind of thing. So that doesn't make any sense. I don't know if this guy's learned his lesson yet. But but putting him in for 60, 90, 180 days, does that get it across or not? I don't know. I'm willing to try. That's my thought. So yeah, I'm a big fan of Judge Middleton, but sometimes I think he's a little soft, and I think this is one of those circumstances. That's the truth of it. It's well within his discretion. He can certainly do that. I would have given him more time. That's just the way I see it. Thank you, Ann. I appreciate it. Thank you all for coming out. That was a fun one, and I will see you all soon.